Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. And just a reminder that the Israel Brief is news that comes to you directly from Israel. So I'm Rolene Marks, and let's take a look at today's top stories. The coronavirus has dominated world headlines, and Israel is no exception. And it is thought that trying to contain the virus and everything that has come up as a result of the virus could possibly cost the Israeli economy about 14 billion shekels. But here are our latest updates. To date, we have one Israeli abroad that has been put into quarantine, and this is in Italy. Italy has been quite hard hit by the coronavirus, and Israel has restricted entry of anybody who has been in Italy unless they self-quarantine. Earlier today, we got the positive news that 3 of our citizens that had been aboard the Diamond Princess, the cruise liner that had previously been quarantined off the coast of Japan, these 3 civilians who had contracted coronavirus have been given the all clear and they have recovered. Yesterday, in an absolutely unprecedented announcement, Israel's health ministry advised Israeli citizens not to travel abroad unless absolutely necessary. And the nation's airline carrier El Al expressing their alarm what could happen to that particular airline, and I'm sure many others around the world, as a result of mass cancellations because of the spread of corona. We are just a few days away from the third election in 1 year. We are all hoping that it will be third time lucky. And as you can imagine, all the parties are making their final push. And I've been quite concerned that we haven't heard from Avigdor Lieberman. Normally, we hear a lot from the man that they call the Kingmaker, the chairman of Israel Beitenu. But at last, he has broken his silence. And let's see what he had to say earlier today. Well, first of all, he said that he will not sit in a unity government with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and we've heard from others that they perhaps also won't join a coalition headed by the Premier, who's also the chairman of the Likud party. The chairman of Israel Beitenu, Avigdor Lieberman, also said he doesn't think that Benny Gantz, who is the leader of the blue and white, Kahol V'Levan, is quite ready for the premiership. And all we can hope is that we don't go to a fourth set of elections. We would like to get on with the business of having a government firmly entrenched and budgets to be passed. And earlier today, the sniping between Netanyahu and Gantz carried on, with the Likud hiring a company that previously sparred with the blue and white, and Benny Gantz responding to that by asking for this to be probed. So it's getting heated, and we're near the finish line. So hopefully, third time lucky, as we say here in Israel, Pamshlishit Glida, or third time lucky ice cream, and it will be cause for celebrations and not frustration that we may be headed to the polls again. And in our final story, yesterday we spoke about the carnival that was held in Spain, where participants were dressed up as Nazi officers as well as concentration camp prisoners. The Spanish foreign minister expressed his utter disgust at the carnival and contacted the organizers. Members of the Spanish Jewish community also contacted the organizers for their explanation, and they have subsequently apologized profusely, saying that it wasn't their intention to dishonor anybody. In fact, their intention was to honor the victims of the Holocaust. And hopefully this has been a lesson in Holocaust education and sensitivity. And if the organizers of the carnival do wish to include this, it will be done with a lot more thought, a lot more empathy, and a lot more sensitivity. Those are the top stories making headlines here today. Don't forget that you can check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, and here's a recap of some of the latest articles that were featured this week. You can take a tour of Israeli beer manufacturers with Dave Kaplan. You can read Martin Alperstein's very moving article expressing frustration as an Israeli at the lack of a peace partner in the Palestinians, and you can read my article on how Israel went from zero to hero in fighting the trafficking of women and children. Also, don't forget that our Facebook community is growing and we want you to be a part of it. On a Friday, we are in a different part of the country. See where we are to wish you Shabbat Shalom and a great weekend. Don't forget to pop us a Shabbat Shalom message. And while you're there, if you haven't already, please like us and follow us and share our content. And if that wasn't enough, we also have a YouTube channel at the Israel Brief, and you can get your daily updates of the Israel Brief, as well as make sure that Israel's news gets out to the masses by simply clicking on the subscribe button. So with the final edition of the Israel Brief for this week, I want to take this opportunity to wish you and yours a wonderful weekend. May it be peaceful and restful, and especially for our citizens in the south. And a Shabbat Shalom. So with today's edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks, wishing you Shabbat Shalom.